Oh man, I wanted to love this movie, I really did. Unbreakable was great, and Split was a very worthy follow-up. I was so rooting for Shyamalan to finish this trilogy with a bang. I was excited to see it. I really wanted it to be good. And parts of it are very good. Let's just cover the best things right now. The first 20 minutes to a half an hour are exactly what I was hoping this movie would be. Good versus evil, superhero versus supervillain. It was great stuff. The cinematography is terrific. There are some shots in this movie that are absolutely beautiful. And once again, James McAvoy is fantastic. The guy is a force of nature as this character. He's playing something like 20 different personas in the same body and somehow manages to make all of them completely separate and distinct. It's a really impressive piece of acting. He's the best thing in the movie by a mile. However, that gets to a point where he starts to overshadow all the other characters. So much so that Bruce Willis and Sam Jackson kind of fade into the background a lot of the time. They are not in this movie as much as you might think, which is strange because you kind of thought Bruce Willis's character was the hero of the story, and Sam Jackson, the movie is named after his character, for crying out loud. And I understand that McAvoy has the flashier role in this thing, but they marketed this as more of an ensemble piece, and there are long stretches of the movie where Willis and Jackson barely do anything. They hardly interact at all, actually, so if you go in expecting to see a return to the dynamic between those two that was so interesting in Unbreakable, you're gonna be disappointed. Speaking of disappointments, let's talk about the script, because there are some aspects of this that are kind of hard to swallow. Unbreakable and Split are two of the better scripts Shyamalan has turned out in my opinion, but this one felt sloppy by comparison. I'm gonna try not to spoil anything here, but there are a bunch of instances that rely pretty heavily on plot contrivance, moments that depend on characters knowing something they couldn't possibly know or doing something that would require a certain thing that they don't have. But the real problem stems from Sarah Paulson's character. Now, the whole crux of this movie is that David Dunn, Mr. Glass, and the Horde are in a mental institution, and Sarah Paulson is playing a doctor who's trying to convince them that they don't actually have superpowers, that the powers are all in their heads. But we, the viewers, know that this is not true. We saw Unbreakable, we saw Split, we know their powers are real, so we're just left wondering why they're spending so much time on this plot point that is so obviously gonna turn out to be bullshit or a swerve of some kind, and this goes on for most of the movie. So for a majority of the runtime, you're just waiting for the story to get to the point and move on from this stuff already. But you don't really find out what the point of all that was until almost the end of the film. And when you do, it comes so far out of left field that I honestly thought I was missing something, like I dozed off and missed a half an hour of information. It involves a very late introduction of an entirely new angle on this story that I don't think was ever hinted at in the previous two films. The whole thing just felt so unnecessary and so shoehorned in. And it's really frustrating because you had such a great setup here. Part 1, Unbreakable, origin of a superhero. Part 2, Split, origin of a supervillain. So you figure Part 3 is gonna be the big climactic superhero versus supervillain showdown, and you do get that, but it's not really what the movie ends up being about. Ultimately, Glass is a whole lot of buildup just to set the stage for this weird twist at the end that the movie really didn't need, that interferes with what you probably wanted the movie to be about, and even though Sarah Paulson's character's entire purpose was just to get us ready for this new plot point, it still feels like it comes out of nowhere. Like Shyamalan got to the end of the script, he didn't know how to end it, and then just decided that he needed a swerve because people are going to expect a swerve, so he just tacked one on. It honestly comes off like a last-minute rewrite, and that's baffling to me because it comes right after another twist that works great. And the reason that one works so well is because it builds on what had come before, and you can see that there was actual setup for it in the previous films. Not so with this one, and it really hurts the climax because there are some beats at the end that should be very emotional, but they're not because the focus is suddenly taken off what you thought the movie was about, and instead we're suddenly told to focus on this big swerve. And it just doesn't work because that's not what we're invested in, that's not where the emotion is. And as a result, the ending kind of falls flat and just left me feeling really confused. It's a frustrating ending to this film and to this trilogy. They really had me at first, but they lost me and did not get me back. Glass is a well-shot, well-crafted film with another terrific performance by James McAvoy as the Horde, but instead of being focused on concluding the Unbreakable trilogy in a satisfying way, it seems more interested in pulling the rug out from under the audience and doing some weird twist at the 11th hour that felt like it would need a whole other movie to explain properly. I think I see what Shyamalan was going for, but this twist felt unearned, lazily introduced, and really dragged the movie down for me by getting in the way of what we were led to believe the movie would be about in the first place. There are a lot of things to like about Glass. There are some great moments in this film, but unfortunately, the Unbreakable trilogy just did not stick the landing. Let me know what you thought of Glass down in the comments below. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed, smash that bell icon for notifications, and follow me on Twitter using the link in the description box so you'll always know when I upload new videos. I talk movies, TV, comics, trailers, and more, so if you like what you see here, stay tuned, and I'll be back real soon with the next one. Until then, over. Out.